It is Veterans Claim Ambush. Veteran Claims Ambush. This is lesson number 24. College level course. Pretty boring stuff as we go through actual documents, right? Until you're the one who's in the ambush. Oh, and it is an ambush. So this is number 24. Going to start today because this is an important one. If you haven't looked at the rest, this is the one to watch. This will give you the tone for what's happening. I want to talk about my experience to help you understand something. I have had 3 EGDs. Camera down the throat on a special kind of swivel axis. Samples taken. So this is surgical. I have erosive esophagitis. I've had it for a while. My situation isn't important. What I'm going to show you that follows, pay attention to this. 3 EGD surgical procedures which produce 3 lab reports. Every sample is analyzed looking for cancer. This is where your throat burns up. And the acid coming up from your stomach, very powerful. Hydrochloric acid, among other things, can take paint off cars. And so it destroys your throat over time with lesions, breaks, like ulcers. Okay, so there's a big medical history. There's the procedure, which is surgical, 3 lab reports, findings of chronic inflammation, erosive esophagitis, which is not just indigestion, plaque, which then is eosinophilic esophagitis, and ultimately the cause of it, I believe, was environmental poisoning at 4 PCS assignments. The bases were full of all kinds of wild stuff, from firefighting foam to jet fuel. I was in the Air Force. So if you drank a cup of coffee, that extra sparkle was probably JP4 back in those days. Okay? So you with me? We got records. This could be you. You could have actual records. Okay? We have to go back and review something quickly. This is the ambush. You see the trees. Your first instinct is to look here. The ambush is here, right in front of you. Victor Bravo Alpha, VBA, will lie to you. They will lie to CNP examiners. They will withhold documents, which is the same thing as lying. They do it on purpose. They know exactly what they're doing. This is not an idiocracy. This is not an idiocracy. These are not mistakes. Okay? So I have defined the ambush from the first lesson, and periodically I remind you about it. I don't have to spend much time on this, but go back and look at Milgram pain experiment, look at Stanford prison experiment. Okay? The VA hospital in DC has saved my life. Excellent, excellent, wonderful. Which goes to show that all of the VA is not like Victor Bravo Alpha or the board administration. Administration. I'm not talking about VLJs, the judges. I'm talking about the administration. It is not like, I've explained this, it is not like any court I've ever been in, around, or heard of. In fact, I don't believe it is a court, no matter what they call it. Okay, you are, here we go. You stand, I've shown you this in priors, you stand between a VA employee and their bonus, because it's all quantitative. They get the bonus based on piecework done per unit of time. Doesn't matter if it's right, wrong, sloppy, indifferent, or probably illegal, as I have shown you from IG reports. They still get it. Remember, there is no discovery, no cross-examination, no depositions, no affidavits. Federal rules of civil procedure don't apply. I could go on and on. This is an ambush. Here is what it is saying. Veteran, shut up and put on the blinders. Shut up and put on the blinders. These are the blinders. Blinders. This is a note I got from the board. Pretty recent. Board admin. I did a Privacy Act. I wanted to find out who, this is very simple, who, what human being had written me 2 letters. There we go, there's the query. And they make believe they only got it on July 23. I do these by fax. I have the receipts. If it's dated, that's when I sent it. So, the first 2 lines, shut up. See? That's what the first 2 lines say. Shut up. You requested records concerning the identity of the writers and senders of your letters dated August 15 and August 22. These are the letters. These are the dates I made the demands. These are the identifying correspondence numbers. When you get letters from Victor Bravo Alpha or from the board admin, you'll see respond to, and they'll give you identifiers. 721, 727. I have no idea who this is. Remember, shut up, put on the blinders. Here we go. Here's blinders. We have exhausted our search. No responsive records were located. Therefore, I consider this to be a denial of your request. So I appeal this. Shut up, put on the blinders. But you're not the only one that they're going to treat this way. I've gone over this before. Okay, you can look this up on Google. When you deal with sociopaths, all right, this is what you are dealing with. It doesn't mean they're idiots. Okay? If they're cornered, they can react. So, just keep this in mind. They get paid the same, by the way. Doesn't matter what they do, as long as they tap the file. There's no reason they have to tell you to shut up, put on the blinders. But it's not just you. Watch this. This is what a CNP exam query questionnaire looks like. You've probably never seen this. I don't know how many they have. I will assume they have, based on the number of diseases and disabilities. Oh, I don't know, 200? 200. And they send this out to the CNP examiner. You get a date. Remember I told you, start bugging them for the date, because they may say they sent it to you, and they didn't. And then they will close the file because you didn't show up for the exam you never knew about. I showed you a case on that. Time for a break. I'll be back. I'm back, and I'm going to show you this one more time so it's in your mind right in front. 3 EGDs, lab reports, hundreds of pages, showing chronic inflammation, showing erosive esophagitis, showing plaque, showing environmental poisoning. This one hasn't been settled yet, but 4 PCS bases, you know what I was drinking. Firefighting, foam, and jet fuel, JP4. Because now we're into this questionnaire. You walk into the room. The examiner is sitting there, looking at a laptop. Almost everyone I've gone into has had a laptop open. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've asked them, show me what you're doing. No, I can't do that. This is what they're doing, okay? This is about me. I never made a claim for peripheral nerves. I never made a claim for peripheral nerves. Why would they send out a peripheral nerve questionnaire? Because they're going to lie to the examiner. Why would they do that? Why would anybody do that? I want you to think for a second. I'm going to an examination. I don't know what the examiner sees on the laptop. They won't tell me. They won't show me. They're not supposed to. Okay? Why did they send an examination demand from VA for peripheral nerves when I never made that claim? Peripheral nerves operate your muscles. Diabetic exam. Touch the bottom of the feet. Run a pencil point up the side of the leg. Can you feel it? Tickle the top of the head, around the ears, along the arms. Grip strength with your hands. What do I have? I have inflammation, nerve damage. At the time this is taking place, that is already service-connected. It has been found service-connected. It is in the interior of my body, not related to muscle activity. My throat is being burned up with erosive esophagitis. There are about 500 pages of medical records with lab reports and surgeries and so forth. Why did they do this? They hate me. That's why they did it. But they don't have to hate you. Don't think I'm elevating my situation. This could be you. This could be you. Time for a break. So we're going to go over, now that I'm back and I can speak again. Okay, why is this being done? Well, it says yes. It's in person. Records reviewed. What records were reviewed? The records from a VAE folder. In other words, all the examiner knows is what the VA sent or did not send or did not send. Okay? Acceptable clinical evidence. Review of available records, not checked. Review of available records in conjunction with, not checked. Just a VAE folder. I'm sitting in the room. This is what the examiner is paying attention to. This is 13 pages long. It requires multiple check marks for conditions I don't have, for a claim I never made. Why is this happening? Let's take a look here briefly. Does the veteran have a peripheral nerve condition or peripheral neuropathy? No. That's pretty easy, isn't it? No. Why am I there? I'm being examined for what? Erosive esophagitis, GERD, inflammation. That has been noted on 3 EGD surgical reports and lab reports. Does he have? No. Medical history. Developed pain in the chest and worsened over time. Why are they examining the nerves in my legs? in my back, along my arms, at the top of my head, the bottom of my feet. Veteran states he has nerve damage from GERD resulting in symptoms of pain. I showed you the Saunders case about pain. This is a magic word. This is very serious. Where did this come from? This came from me sitting in the room. Why is that? Because I speak. You must speak. Do not go into one of these rooms with an examiner thinking that they're there to help you, do you a favor, or do a competent exam. They're there to be paid. There's nothing wrong with that. They depend upon what the VA sends them in an e-folder. An e-folder. What is in the e-folder? And the answer is, shut up and put on the blinders. Why is that? Shut up and put on the blinders. So if you say, what did you send this man or woman who is the examiner? This is the way you'll be treated. This was from the board admin. We're not even going to tell you who sends you letters. Okay? We're going to zip through the rest, but this page we're going to concentrate a little bit. So, this comes from me. What is the first thing you would look for if you saw that? The veteran says, I have pain in my chest, I have erosive esophagitis, which is not there. Do you see the words erosive esophagitis? Do you see anything that says esophagus, the throat? You see, this is for peripheral nerves, not for the condition of my esophagus. The first lie from VBA is the exam, and it is restricted to what they are going to pay for. The second lie is they haven't sent the medical files to show why I have a pain in my chest. Now, I have said to this examiner, erosive esophagitis, GERD, escalation, acid, inflammation shown on lab reports, on 3 EGDs. Do you see that here? No, you do not. How did I get this? Privacy Act. Who did I get it from? The board admin. How did I get it? Well, I was going to go off to the U.S. District Court and file. I couldn't get this. And so I had to appeal to the Office of General Counsel, Privacy Act Division. This is the way the law works. I did so. The VBA, BVA combine lied to OGC for about 2 months and said, don't worry, the disc is on the way. No, it wasn't. So I said to OGC, I said, thank you very much. I'm going to go file now at the U.S. District Court because they've misled you at OGC, and secondarily, they've misled me. If I go to the U.S. District Court, there are no blinders. I get discovery. I can subpoena people in the U.S. District Court. You can forget that at the Honorable CAVC. I've been at the CAVC multiple times. I have yet to have had open discovery. So if I am in the U.S. District Court over something as silly as the Privacy Act, look what I get. I get discovery. I get cross-examination. I can get depositions. I can force affidavits. I am under the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. Okay? Subpoenas. Let's take a break. I'm back. Now we have already gone through this. It says progressed or worsened. We know there are available lab reports. We know this. Let's go through this quickly. Veteran states Nerve damage symptoms such as stinging pain and is constant, disabling pain with a slight tingling. It tingles sometimes as well as stinging pain. It feels like, and this is how I often describe it, having a pin pushed into your chest and hitting something that then ignites a nerve that runs up the side of the right side around to the back of the head. It's been diagnosed, I went to neurology about it, as what's called referred pain. It's not a heart attack. It can hurt like hell, but it's not a heart attack. So what do you do if you have played sports? A lot of you have. And after the game, someone says, you better have that looked at. Why? Because it looks like your toe is broken, your finger is broken. You have this huge bruise on your shoulder. Can't you see it? You know what I'm talking about. You play right through pain. Pain increases with eating activity and will get a burning and throbbing pain from the right side of chest to shoulder. Aggravated by driving posture, lifting heavy objects. Normally it's 3 out of 10, but as I move around, it goes to 5 out of 10. It goes higher. You know what I'm talking about. Every one of you has played with a broken finger or toe or whatever it was. When you went through basic, you got banged up a little bit. Improves with activity limitation, medication, and aspirin. What medication? There is no medication. The implication is what? Dope, as in DOPE, like opioids or tramadol? I don't use it. I use meditation, and I play right through it. And aspirin. Yeah, I used to take aspirin. I still do. So we have my discussion. You're a doctor. You know right away what this is talking about, don't you? It has nothing to do with peripheral nerves. It has everything to do with GERD. And I've told him it's erosive esophagitis, and he knows it. Veteran denies evaluation by neurology. At that point, I hadn't gone because I had been through 3 EGDs with lab reports, with top experts, gastroenterologists doing EGDs. Top experts worldwide. They're at the VA hospital in DC. I was being treated by the best. I knew exactly what it was. The reports were obvious. My throat is burned up from acid. There are little ulcers or breaks. Any treatment or medications or surgery? Aspiring by now. Okay, look up aspiring. Breathing. So you see, no recognition of 3 EGDs with surgery to obtain samples to see if it had progressed to cancer. A VA hospital medical report shows everybody in the room, every amount of anesthesia, if any, is used, every little pill, the timestamp of blood pressure taken periodically during the procedure. Is the patient alert? The patient is interviewed before. The patient is interviewed while they're ready to begin the procedure. The patient is interviewed at. It's 500 pages. Any treatment? Medications? I told you, none. We tried an experimental one. It didn't work for me. Sometimes it works for other people. It was an ulcer medication for your stomach. Any treatment? 500 pages worth. Medications? No. Surgery? Yes. How many times? 3. How many medical records? 500 pages. Do you see what he says? Tylenol by mouth is needed. The page before, I just want to show you how this works. I'm not blaming this doctor. Aspirin, Tylenol, Medication. Nothing about medication. Are you slightly amazed at this point? Why would they lie? This is VBA. Why would they lie to this examiner? Telling the examiner, it's for peripheral nerves, as though I had made a claim for it. I had not. That's a lie. And then there aren't any medical records about all these 500 pages, these 3 EGDs, so they held it back. See? They lied to the examiner about that. And the examiner will not be paid unless they do this report. This is what the VBA has restricted the exam to. And then I'm going to skip through the rest of this pretty quickly. It says correctly, I am right-handed. Does the veteran have any symptoms attributable to any peripheral nerve condition? No. Why was I there? If I had known this was what this was about, and only this, I would have walked out. Furthermore, nobody has the right to touch you in the medical field unless you give informed consent. Take a break. I'm going to talk about this. Okay, we're back. Nobody in the medical field has any permission to touch you, no right, unless you have given informed consent. Now, a peripheral nerve exam is not a highly personal thing. I'm not angry at this physician. He's testing the bottom of my feet. Can I feel my toes? Can I feel my ankles? Can I feel my arms, my delts, my back, my ears? If I had known that this was the limitation of the exam, I would have said, you can't touch me. You do not have my consent to examine me, to touch me for a peripheral nerve injury that I have never claimed. Now that is a major league lie by VBA. Do you see the association? All right? The doctor thinks I've given consent. I think this is an exam for basically inflammation nerve damage from, of course, the inflammation that has appeared on 3 EGD reports, lab reports, etc. And of course it's not. VBA will lie to you, to me, and to examiners. And that's what they did to this examiner. So he spends a whole lot of time, as he must, going over things on these pages. This is 3 of 13. Here's 4 of 13. You can stop it and take a look. Testing all kinds of reflexes and do the muscles work? Am I able to move my wrist, my arms? See? Look at the names involved in this. And I don't know that this is what it's for as I'm sitting in the room. Look at this. Do you know what this is? Meanwhile, look at all these double check marks. If the examiner doesn't do this, the examiner doesn't get paid. The examiner works for a company, maybe as an independent contractor, I don't know. But if this isn't filled out the way the VA wants it filled out, that vendor company doesn't get paid. Look at this. Double check marks, double check marks. What did we see at the outset? We saw there's no peripheral nerve problem. More. How long did it take to fill this out? How long would it take you to fill this out if you were ordering lunch at McDonald's? And they said, I'm sorry, but you have to fill out these 13 pages. We really want to know. Do you want fries with that, or do you want, something else? Apple pie? So I want to stop and take a look at this for a second. I'm going to talk about this, so I have to stop and get my voice ready. Okay, we're back, and there's that page again. There's that page again. So let's talk about this. The ilioinguinal nerve, sometimes written as one word. And the reason I'm centering on this is it relates to something else. This is going to show you how that page that I keep showing you is applicable to the way VBA as an institution thinks. The ilioinguinal nerve is a branch of the first lumbar nerve. Backbone. It separates from the first lumbar nerve along the larger iliohypogastric nerve. But of course you knew that. It emerges from the lateral border of the psoas major, just inferior to, and passes obliquely across, then perforates transversus. Where does this thing go? In the male, it is nicknamed the anterior scrotal nerve. It goes to the skin. I'm reading from Wikipedia. The skin over the root of the penis and the upper part of the scrotum. It is a sex nerve. Females have one also, generally the same area. The very, very lower part of your abdomen by the sex organs. I am talking about inflammation, 3 EGDs, chronic inflammation, years, nerve damage in my esophagus, going up with pain symptoms into my right shoulder and around my neck. So, this is part of the form. Now, was there any examination of my sex organs? Of course not. Would I have allowed it? Of course not. I would have walked out. But you see, it's on the form. Now, why is this interesting? You notice what the response is from the examiner. The examiner says, normal, normal. He's not even asking me about it. By the way, he hasn't even looked down my throat at all. There's no reading of blood pressure. All right. Why is this important? Because to get back at me, VBA would later publish on va.gov to the world within VA that I had a claim for this nerve, a sex nerve. Why would they do that when their own examiner says, normal? Why would they do that? I've shown you why. I gave you the conditions, the general psychopathy of individuals. On an institutional basis, VBA hates me, despises me, because of a stunning victory I had at the board. I got a judgment, which is what I call it, in April of 2020. And thereafter, with remands, VBA refused to do the work the board said they had to do. refused, even to the extent of deleting documents, which I caught them at. I had to go in March of 2021 to the Honorable CAVC. I could not find any other case like this, to get judicial relief, extraordinary relief, to force Victor Bravo Alpha to do its job. The Secretary would not lift a finger to enforce a BVA judgment. The BVA has no enforcement power. Once again, the Secretary would not lift a finger to help enforce a BVA judgment. Now, do I think literally the human being Secretary knew anything about this? No, of course not. I would write to the Secretary, and who knows where that stuff goes? I would assume the trash. But I would create an enormous paper trail. How did I get enforcement of that BVA judgment? How did I force VBA? All they had to do was rate service-connected disabilities. That's all they had to do. This is part of that picture. You see? Well, they'd already decided to rate at 0. So why didn't they just do it? And the answer is because there is a mentality involved and they despise me. Because I do not hesitate to say what they are and how they work. Shut up and put on the blinders. So they later published that I had paralysis of these sex nerves, which was false when they published it. Time for a short break. I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon, but I thought I'd show you this. This is a handy pocket copy of the Declaration of Independence and Constitution of the United States, which contains, among other things, the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution. And the Fifth Amendment is the one that talks about 10 different things. You can't be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless there's a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces. Okay? Except in cases arising in the land or naval forces, or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. This is the double jeopardy thing, which says you can't be tried twice for the same crime. All right? You can't be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. You can in a civil case. You can be compelled in a civil case. That's why they were afraid when I said I was going to the U.S. District Court. Who do you think I would have called as witnesses? Okay? And this is another part. Nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Okay? Pretty big. Due process. The federal courts will say that you, as a veteran, are entitled to due process when you are at the VA. You're a civilian. You're not going to get due process. And everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. The cases have held that when you have a service-connected disability, you have a property right in that benefit. And the cases will talk about this ad nauseum. And then in real life, the VBA and the BVA administration sits back and says to you, shut up and put on the blinders. And they do things like this exam. Do you know how much they paid for this? This doctor had to fill out this form. VA sent it. If I were to tell you they paid $2,000 for this, would you be surprised? Would you say, so what? Taxpayer money. Just borrow it. Federal debt. Issue more treasury bills, bonds, notes. Okay, so let's continue this. Are there any other significant diagnostic test findings and/or results? No. 3 EGDs, surgeries, samples, lab reports. No, there's nothing else because they haven't sent it to him. This is great. Now, this is the last page. We've gone through 12 pages. It's self-impeaching. Medication, Tylenol, aspirin. There's no medication. I don't know where that came from. Okay. So, how much time has the examiner had to spend filling this out? And this is not filled out while I'm in the room necessarily. They're working on it. They're working on it when I'm in the room. He's typing away, not looking at me. And I left out the particulars because it doesn't matter which doctor did it. Take a look at this. These are the remarks. No neuro workup found in records. So neurology did not say what the pain was. It didn't have to. It's in the lab reports. I'm burned up. No objective evidence of peripheral neuropathy. That's absolutely true. Thus, no diagnosis is not warranted. Forget the double negative. You know what it means. There's no diagnosis because there's no evidence of peripheral nerve damage. No definitive diagnosis of chronic inflammation nerve damage established. He didn't read the records. He didn't know it was already service-connected. He didn't know that I had provided medical proofs. I'm going to talk about medical proofs. Have to take a break. I thought I'd show you, coming back from my interruption there, a picture of a tough jury. This is from when I was a judge advocate. I forget if I was defending or prosecuting at this one. You know what these pictures are like. Yeah, that's the old days. We didn't have the... those were the old fatigues. Okay, so the veteran has chest tenderness, no pathology, okay, related to tenderness. 3 EGDs, 3 lab reports, 500 pages. They didn't send the records. He's not lying. The doctor is not lying. They didn't send the records. 500 pages worth of it. Now, you can prove things in law by the presence of something or by the absence of something, and there are gradations of proof. When you supply peer-reviewed medical journal articles as part of your claim, those are called proofs. And they must be considered, for instance, by the board, and they are supposed to be considered by the VBA, who basically tell you to shut up and put on the blinders. They are incompetent to read them at VBA. I gave them scholarly peer-reviewed articles about nerve damage from the top medical journals in this country and also from Great Britain. In England, it's called Lancet, L-A-N-C-E-T. And I gave them a few from different places around the world, different studies. And these get published. I like to get them off of the National Institute of Health, NIH. I've explained that before. And so when I would submit a claim, and for instance this one, I submitted about 1,000 pages of medical records and peer-reviewed medical journals, which were referred to in my BVA judgment. of April 2020. Right in the text of the opinion, the Veterans Law Judge refers to the numerous peer-reviewed medical proofs I have submitted. It's as though I called an expert witness without having to provide the body in the room. Normally in court, you have to provide the body, unless, under the rules, you demand a stipulation from the opposing side that if this person were called, here's what they would say. You get a stipulation for that. And if you have to produce the witness, then you can ask that the other side be charged for the attendance of the witness. So you submit medical proofs. Now, VBA could look up each of those proofs I submitted and the medical records. But the proofs depended upon a knowledge not casual of biology, chemistry, physics, and statistical mathematical modeling. I don't know if anybody at VBA was even qualified to read and understand the materials I submitted. I cannot tell you any more about the psychology of the people who did this to this examiner, knowing that that would harm me. They wanted a result. They sent for the wrong exam, didn't tell me what exam. The examiner couldn't show me the exam. And I presumed that the examiner would have the full medical record, and this proves that that was not the case. See this? It's very interesting. Identify the specific nerves affected, NA. Provide your medical rationale, NA. Here's where it goes. Please comment on the effect of the veteran's service-connected and/or claimed disabilities on his or her ability to function. So the doctor would have to know, examining me, the effect of the veteran's service-connected and/or claimed disabilities. Now, what service-connected disability did I have at this time? Oh, chronic inflammation, nerve damage. Was already service-connected. The question was the rating. Should it be 0 or should it be higher? The doctor didn't know that I had service-connected arthritic knees, that I had calcified lungs, didn't know that I had tinnitus, difficulty hearing, since 1981, calcified lungs since 1981, arthritic knees since 1981, GERD, bad GERD with high bounce per fluoroscope since 1981. Didn't know any of that. They asked him, veterans service-connected and/or claimed disabilities. And he says, NA. He's got no idea because they didn't tell him. When you go into a C&P exam, you are in litigation. And VBA can lie about you by withholding vital information. And they will. They will never be punished for doing this. Never. They will still get their bonus. And that, as I have shown you, is what it's all about. I'm going to show you in the next one another examination. And it will be more of VBA. Preview. I went for another one. And the doctor said, this guy can't show up for work on a routine basis. And he can't work for more than spurts of time. That's part of the reason I do this thing and edit in the camera. And what was the result? It was about TDIU. The result was they sent me for another one, records only, so I couldn't even talk to this examiner. Records only. What records did they send? Huh? If they can lie about you, they will. Shut up. Put on the blinders. There are 3 rules at VBA and at the board admin. The first is there is no due process. It doesn't matter what the Constitution and the case law says. There isn't any. You have to go to court to try and enforce. So you're not going to get due process from VBA or the board admin. Number 2, you have to take the beating. Before you can go to court, federal court, you have to show exhaustion of administrative remedies. You have to take the beating. I've done that. It's a good rule, by the way, in the federal courts. Don't come to federal court unless you've tried everything. So, rule number 1, there is no due process. Number 2, the vet has to take the beating. Number 3, shut up and put on the blinders. I am not your lawyer. Get a lawyer. If you're in the claims alley heading for the ambush, get a lawyer. I am not your lawyer. I am not giving you legal advice. I'm trying to explain to you what these people are like so you don't get ambushed. Get a lawyer. And that's it for this one. Time for some ice water.